Hey, Mark here. I just have a fun announcement for you. So, we recently started doing these Final Fight episodes, and we've been putting them up with the movies, the regular movie, films, and flicks episodes. However, the Final Fight episodes people really loved, so we figured that we would start a brand new podcast just called Final Fights, brought to you by Movies, Films, and Flicks, where it's nothing but final fights in movies, where we discuss every punch, bite, kick, gut punch, everything you can think about. We do a lot of research, and they're short episodes. They're probably about 20 to 30 minutes. They're really quick to listen to, and they just talk about all your favorite final fights. So head to iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, and rate, review, and subscribe, and listen to Final Fights. I think you'll really enjoy it. Thank you. Welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man who currently wishes that he could be best friends with an owl-cat hybrid. It's Chris Kelly.
Hi, everybody. I didn't want to do this, Mark, but you made me. Archimedes! do your worst.
I love that little... I mean, it's natural for a cat just to fly away.
Like of course, it happens all the time. That's the reason why I Skype now on these podcasts, is because your cats kept attacking me. It flew right in. It was like, oh my god!
You were that fish cologne. Chris Kelly, it's a bad idea.
I told you 3 times already.
The other day I was editing the podcast for the King of the Ants, which is kind of insane because it's Stuart Gordon directed, and then Tyler McIntyre is kind of a Stuart Gordon fan of Reanimator and all those pictures, so it's a nice what's the word? It's a nice
nice flow, yeah.
Yeah, like that we went from that into that. But yeah, so I was editing the podcast and I kept going Chris Kelly, and my wife Megan just goes, "Mark, did you just say Chris Kelly aloud?"
Like, no.
So in this house, you're just known as Chris Kelly. What's Chris Kelly doing?
Yeah, all the time, even when I go to work, I'm never Chris or Kelly. It's always Chris Kelly.
Chris Kelly too. Yeah, so I just had to tell you that. But I think it's pretty neat that we moved on from kind of that low budget King of the Ants to this movie and Patchwork that was released in 2015. And you just told me something really interesting. We tend not to talk about the the movie before we start the podcast because we want it to seem fresh. But you told me something really interesting. This movie cost less than $100,000 to make?
Yes. I had actually conducted my own interviews for this podcast with everybody involved. And Tyler McIntyre had told me that the movie cost a little under $100,000.
So he wrote, directed, and edited this piece, right? Tyler McIntyre?
Yes, co-wrote.
Oh, that's crazy. I mean, $100,000, which I kind of want to watch it again now because I don't know how you've worked on indie shorts before, right? But like working on a full-length picture, 90-minute picture for $100,000 with the effects that they had in blood in different locations. This it makes me appreciate it more. I mean, I've worked on $25,000 features before where I'm telling you, man, we brought all of our own clothes. We had a couple locations and I had one tree that I moved to every single location. And this is very early in my cinema. This is 2011. And so I didn't know much about production design or designing pictures. I just knew that I had one tree that was like a fake tree. And so for every office scene, I put that fake tree in every single office. And then I put it in the apartment. So when you watch this movie, it's called Undocumented Executive. If you ever watch it, you will notice the same tree in the background of every single shot because we had next to nothing. Like I was using rolling chairs as dollies. We were... I've done movies like that before. I mean, if you want a dolly, get a skateboard. I mean, I really like the ingenuity that we came up with, but I do feel terrible now knowing that I put a tree in the background of every single scene. It kind of hurt my soul, but I mean, but what? Dude, this does not look like a $100,000 movie. I would say.
Not at all. I think it looks. I thought it was a several $million production, especially with the effects, as far as visual effects go with the owl cat And with the blood alone, I thought that was at least 10 grand right there was for the blood. But
there's a lot of body parts. Decapitated heads are not cheap. They're not. You have like the arms and legs and all that kind of junk. I mean, that's not cheap.
Yeah, I used to have fake body parts strewn around my apartment when it was an apartment. Now it's a condo, but I used to have them out just as like for Halloween and whatnot. They ain't cheap. You can easily drop a couple $100.
You know when you go to Michael's and you find out that the Reeves, when they're not on sale for 50% off, they're like $300.
Yeah, right.
That's like fake arms.
Like that's a deal. I heard from this guy Mark about this fake tree that he's still hustling around for $50.
I took that thing. So we filmed in this office building and they didn't want us there, but they had a bunch of empty offices. So we were able to rent it out for really cheap. So we had to work around these accounting departments while making this movie.
I've had to do that, yeah.
And I kept borrowing stuff from the people and they got annoyed about it. Then they stopped letting me borrow it. And then I, air quotes, started borrowing things for the tapes. And I always put them back. But no, I mean, I thought that was really cool that you told me about this movie. And you told me about this movie about a year ago when you do your Chris Kelly recommendations.
Yeah.
I'll save the song for later. And I thought it sounded interesting, but I'm glad I finally watched it. How'd you first hear about this picture?
I was on Shudder, and as you know, I'm an avid Shudder user.
Just close your eyes and pick a movie.
I went on there, and it popped up as the new releases. I watch any of the new releases just to see what's out there. A lot of times you'll see films that are from various parts of the world. I think that same night I also watched Demon, which was a Polish horror film, which was okay. But before that, I watched Patchwork, and I thought, I'll give it a shot. Why not? And I watched it, and I was just blown away with it immediately. I thought that everything about it just looked great. I instantly got the humor that director Tyler McIntyre was going for. I loved the gore. I loved the characters. I thought Jennifer was very, very good. Melanie, Ellie. I just thought all those characters combined into one head was just the funniest idea, and how they're all trying to control the same body and then trying to figure out who did this to them, who stitched them together and why. I just found that was just the ridiculous concept, and I just loved it immediately.
Now, I don't recommend anybody doing this, but I loved it when Jennifer runs into the frat house and just starts beating the living daylights out of the guys. But I love the song. So it's 10-20-10 by the Generationals. I hunted it down. That song gets me jacked. It makes me want to go run into like a frat house somewhere and run amok. Just scare the living daylights out of people.
True story. That house was actually the house that Tori Stolper, who plays Jennifer, she lived there when she was in college.
Oh, wow.
And that scene, that's a one-take scene. They had three fake window panes that they could use. And that scene was actually shot 6 months after principal photography. So they had 12 days of principal photography. And
12 days?
12 days.
They didn't sleep. They did not sleep.
Nope.
No sleep.
So in the interview that I had with Tyler, he said that made the movie, they wanted to shoot this fight sequence, but they didn't have enough money for it. So they had showed what was the result of the film without the fight sequence, and the executive producer then gave them some extra money to do 2 more days of reshoots, and they shot that one-take fight sequence within those days. And then that was the actual second take that was used for the fight sequence. So they busted up one window, and then it didn't work because there was a production design issue. Shot it again, and it worked perfectly. And
they brought in like aquarium glass, and the thing didn't break.
Like, son of a bitch.
But 12 days. That's
12 days. Isn't that nuts?
Man, how much coffee? All right, so the first day, 4 cups of coffee. Second day, 6 cups of coffee. We'd look like different human beings after the 12th day.
Yeah, after that, I think I would probably quit the business. But
I actually looked up the people who did the stunts in this, the coordinators, and that's Caroline O'Day and Tree O'Toole. They've done a ton of work. Very experienced stunt coordinators. Because I watched that fight scene, and there's some good gags in there. There's some good bumps.
Oh, yeah. Well. There was one guy up against the wall, running around the room. What was it? The one guy goes upstairs, and then Stitch beats him with the pledge paddle. And goes back around, chases the other guys around the room, throws the one guy through the window. And the cinematography was phenomenal in that shot, too, by Paweł Pogorzelski.
That dude's crushing it.
Who's gone on to do phenomenal films such as Hereditary and Midsommar.
Man, he's really good. Man, so those are two completely different films too. If you think about it, Hereditary and Midsummer. One's kind of
All three of these are.
claustrophobic in the home. Yeah, all three. Yeah, and then Midsummer is just drenched in light and bonkers and
Yeah,
open.
everything is very vast and open. It's like, man, these are two entirely different styles. And then, of course, you have Patchwork, and it's like three different styles of film.
During your interviews, I think it sounded like they synced the song to the fight scene as well. I don't know if you noticed that. So when she's swinging the paddle, it was going with the beat of the 10-20-10 by the Generationals.
I didn't ask him about that, but I'm assuming that may have been a happy accident.
Let's say they did it. Let's give them credit. Great job, guys. You know how much
Yeah, phenomenal job.
I'm pretty sure that Edgar Wright stole his idea for Baby Driver from the stunts in this film, building a fight scene around a song. What do you think?
May have been. Who knows? He said, Tyler said it, that scene was inspired by Old Boy.
Just going in and just clearing out a location?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, kind of going back, because he went back to that warehouse and had that long hallway fight with the hammer.
Yeah. Yeah, with whenever Stitch breaks the door down, the guy's eating the cheese and peanut butter crackers. I thought I just watched that movie, watched it again this morning. I thought it was so funny. She axes the guy in the leg, pulls off his leg, beats him to death with his own leg.
I mean, it's natural. I mean, that's what happens, right? You've never done that before?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just didn't want to brag about it.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, I didn't want to make.
Random question for you. What's the better hammer fight? Old Boy, or have you seen the Raid 2? Hammer Girl?
No, I'm not big into those movies. I tried to watch Raid. I just didn't.
Oh, those are epic. They got some good hammer fights.
Oh gosh. I'll have to watch it. I know you've been telling me to watch it for a while.
Got it.
I haven't gotten into it yet.
No, but yeah, so I mean, just the roving camera, I mean, the movement, the one take. I mean, I guess it makes sense that they had to wait that long to do that. That's a tough shot to get on a 12-day schedule. Just the amount of...
That in itself is just one day. I mean, but according to Tyler, that was like half the day.
Oh, wow. I mean, but also, you said something else interesting to me as well. You said that Tori Stolper, she was more confident with this film because Tyler is also an editor. And I mean, when you know editing and when you're producing, writing, directing, when you know your budget, when you know your producers, and when you have your days pretty much storyboarded out, you kind of know what you want when you're going into this process. And I tell my students this all the time. If you don't have that much money, the best thing you can do is storyboard. I mean, it's free. It's cheap. You can plan it out, get each shot. So, I mean, I guess half a day is not that surprising for someone like Tyler's used to moving quick.
I would agree with that. Just like how he would know what to look for and how to make it look. Would definitely give confidence in your actors, because a lot of times, as we both know from working on films, when you're working with, you don't know who's the director, how he's going to work, but knowing that his background is in editing, that would totally open everybody up. Not only that, but the majority of these people had already worked with Tyler on the previous productions of his.
You and I would have hated working on this movie. You want to know why, Chris Kelly?
Coffee? I don't know.
Yeah, well, no, you know how much time we've had to sit around, drink coffee on some pictures?
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
There wouldn't be any BSing on this movie. It'd be moving.
This would not be Marvel.
We would actually need coffee on this because we're not sleeping, not just because we're bored. So before I talk more about coffee, how about we get a Chris Kelly breakdown of this movie? I mean, if you're listening to this, you've probably watched the picture, but I'd love to hear what the breakdown is, Chris Kelly. Try to make it succinct.
Essentially, three women are stitched together after a night of drinking. The three people are controlling one brain, and different people are controlling the whole body. So it's like one part of the body is controlled by Jennifer, the other part is controlled by Madeline, the other one's controlled by Ellie. And then they escape from this laboratory to try to figure out who did this to them and why.
I love that there's 6 different parts, there's flashbacks, there's different angles. I never would have guessed that Madeline was a serial killer.
Yeah, right. That was fantastic. I love that.
Did she want that dude's hands? Right? Because she was talking about how great they are, and he's like, "You're kind of weird. I like it."
I love that line that she says, and she's like, whenever they're at the bar, he says, "Give me the Tom Blake." He's like, "Oh, they named a drink after me here." She's like, "Oh, really? Which one?"
Well, the Tom Blake.
Yeah, he was actually a really nice guy as well. I talked to him briefly. He said that he had met all of the people on Tyler's previous film called Oliver Stoned, and he was asked to then do a small role in this film. So he was happy to do so. His character was supposed to be sort of like an action hero. He was described as being a character who was part of a MacGyver-like series. who was who thought that the world, like,